Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Soft Cell's debut album, Stop Erotic Cabaret, which if there was ever a perfect name for an album, that's probably it. Um, Soft Cell was I really I do like Mark Almond's music from this period on to the early 90s. I really like a lot of his solo stuff. There's still a couple albums I need to get. I did review The Stars We Are. Stars We Are from 1988. I did review that album already on this channel. This is my first Soft Cell review. There's a couple other Mark Almond albums I like to review. But I do like and this album is a perfect example of kind of that blend of um, early electronics and his love for plays or skits or that kind of cabaret kind of vibe of kind of poetry and no holds barred on what he wants to say and uh, excuse me and sort of into a sort of a pop dance kind of direction and if there was ever a song that kind of said all that, it was the main single, the huge hit "Tainted Love." Um, so just a really unique artist, and unfortunately, again, another. And I was talking about this earlier, but sort of a one-hit wonder. Considering in America, that's how they can kind of consider Soft Cell, and that's too bad. Because Mark Almond had a really strong career for a good another decade or so. I don't really. There's a lot of artists that I don't necessarily know anything they did after the mid '90s. Mark Almond's one of those. Um, it's just you kind of get into other styles of music by the mid '90s, and by the early '90s, I was heavily into instrumental music and techno, and you know, all the styles of electronic music and industrial, and continue to go on with those genres, and sort of left some of the 80s bands that I followed that didn't really they weren't to the level of like The Cure and Depeche Mode and Pet Shop Boys and New Order and stuff that I sort of still followed. They were sort of the ones that were sort of I liked, but I didn't really like love, and they kind of fell by the wayside. And that's, part of it is because of the instruments they use and the rawness of the times and the sounds, and the keyboards that they're using on here are they're great sounding, like on Bed Sitter and again Tainted Love and stuff like that. It's just like it adds so much unique timelessness to the sound of those old keyboards, and that's just not something that's they did in the 90s. They were sort of on the new keyboards and digital, using Pro Tools and not tracking albums on reel to reel anymore and stuff like that, and the whole sound changed. So for me, the vintage new wave sound and synth pop sound is stuck in the 80s, and thankfully, like dark wave in some way, and then of course post punk helped that, but dark wave and cold wave have sort of kept on those kind of themes in a way. But and then even vaporwave has a little bit, or new synth pop has sort of carried on that vintage sound, but still there's a lot of the early stuff that is really hard to capture. And there's also an innocence and a experimentalism and a not knowing really what works, and because you did that, it sounds so original, right? Like now, looking back, you kind of, if you try to mimic this, or you're like inspired by this, or let's do an 80s sound, like it kind of sounds like how it is. But back this, I mean, you listen to something off this album, and you're like, this is so unique, and still it's very original. And it's just because that was the time they were breaking so much new ground with these electronic sounds that they it just gives them so much timelessness and charm and all those things that we like about like new wave music and stuff like that. And this album is a perfect example of that. I think to really like Mark Almond and Soft Cell, though, you really have to appreciate his kind of cabaret style in some of those songs where it sounds like he's doing poetry or he's reading from a book. Um, I can't think of the guy's name offhand who he really likes the books and does quite a few songs of his that are sort of cabaret. I can't think of his name, but he had a big hit with them. Um, that's something's got a hold of my heart. I can't remember who originally did that song, but that person, he really liked their work, and he would do quite a lot of his songs and sort of turn them into electronic songs, or at least ballads. And that sort of culminated with the 12 Years of Tears greatest hits album, live album at the what was the venue in UK, the Royal Albert Hall. So that was kind of, which I had the CD, and I still really like that CD. It kind of is kind of a good it's a good compilation and live compilation of what Mark Allman and Soft Cell did up to that point. If you like Soft Cell at all, or you like Mark Allman, or you want to check out his music, I'd really urge you guys to check out 12 Years of Tears, either the DVD, the VHS, or the CD. Which the CD has about half of the album, a little bit more than half of the album, the live album, because it was like a 2.5 hour show. It was kind of fairly long, but it did a really good job of kind of going through his career and picking up a lot of his good songs. And when I look at the track list from this album, it had 4 songs from this album on it. Unfortunately, it didn't have Sexdorf on there. I think that was the only missing thing. He didn't do Sexdorf, and it may have been a little odd to do Sexdorf on that tour. But I mean, anything Mark Allman does is, I don't think he would be shy in doing anything. If he wanted to, he would have. But I don't know why he didn't do that song in there. But I think it would have been a nice kind of edgy song to kind of throw in there because it's such a great dance track. But yeah, there's 10 songs on here. Frustration's the first song. I think it's a good song. It's 2 stars. Not necessarily one of the better ones that I would probably have started out the album, but it's okay. Tainted Love, obviously a classic. I guess in those days, and probably in any day, that's probably the ideal thing to do is take a 60s song, some kind of Motown song or R&B song or pop song or doo-wop song, and sort of bring it into your whatever style of music is going on at that time, and that's new and fresh, and take an old song, take an old words and old lyrics and stuff, and sort of plug it into the new music of the day, and I'm sure you'll have a hit. He did that with Tainted Love. 4.25 stars. It's this again. Tainted Love is a really hard one to review. If I was to personally say like what I really like about the song, as far as like scoring it, it's one of those songs that you've heard so many times. You feel like you don't want to give it as high a rating as you probably should. And this is one of those, and I feel like if it was me, I'd probably put it at 3.5 stars, maybe 3.75. I don't know if I would say it's an excellent song, but considering what it is, and it probably is an excellent song, and I'm just kind of again sort of persuaded not to say it's an excellent song because I don't care if I ever hear it again. I have to try to take that into account and feel like if on those popular ones, I almost feel like I'm not really rating from my heart fully, like I do with with really all the other songs. It's just when there's a song as big as Tainted Love, I just feel like I'm not giving my 100% my opinion. I feel like I'm kind of giving it a little bit extra because I'm feeling like I am kind of critiquing it too much by it being overplayed. But so I feel like I gotta give a little bit on those ones that are that popular. Take On Me by a-ha would be another one like that. Like, is Take On Me a 4-star song? I don't know. It's funny, and that's a great example of how much I like music, how much I like lesser known songs, and and I don't really. If it's a one hit wonder, I dig deeper. I want to know more, and I've always been a pretty big Aha fan, especially of their early stuff. And Take on Me is my least favorite song on the album. Like I would probably give it 3.25 stars, 3.5 stars, but it's hard not to give it 4 stars. I mean, it is a catchy, great song, but it's just not a favorite. So that's an example of how it's hard to rate really popular songs. Um, in electronic music, anyways, or at least in synth pop and new wave. CD films, 2.5 stars. I like the simple. There's a lot of that in this album, like very simple electronic music. And this there's some CD films. You know what I mean? It's like Sexdorf, Bedsitter. There's a lot of S&M sort of uh, very overtly sexual things being talked about in this album. Which again, in its own way, is kind of groundbreaking for the time to really kind of put that into electronic music, and that's sort of the allure in this also. I don't know how non-straight people or how non-straight people feel about the importance of this album. I don't know if I can't really speak to that since I'm straight, but I don't I would think for LGBTQ plus community or what have you, like this would be kind of a groundbreaking album to really talk about some of these things on an album. I don't know. I don't know if anybody can tell me that, but CD Films 2.5 stars. Youth, I think, is one of the better ballads on the album for sure, and one of the best ballads he's probably ever done. And if you like Youth, check out the 12 Years of Tears version. It's they completely made it an a cappella, except with some strings, and it's really good. Mark Allman has a really unique, in some ways underrated voice. Yeah, there's certain tones that he sings that doesn't work for his voice and sound a little awkward at times, and maybe he's a little campy, with some of the way he sings and stuff like that. It's like maybe like, oh, but it is kind of like cabaret and plays, and but sometimes he can hit some really nice notes, for his voice, and I think Youth is a good example. 3.5 stars. Sexdorf, great dance song, epic, legendary. I really wanted to go a little bit higher on it, but maybe I should have. I got 3.5 stars. I think it's a classic dance song, though. I could give it 4 stars and be okay with that. It's a strong song. It's just, I have the single, and I used to play the single all the time with they should have put a Muggs Game. I really like Muggs Game. If you know the track, the B-side to Sexdorf called Muggs Game, they probably should have put it on this album. I think they would have helped the album out. 3.5 stars for Sexdorf. Entertain Me's, it's okay. 1.75 stars. Chips on My Shoulder is a little bit better, 2.25 stars. Bedsitter, tied with probably my personal favorite song on the album, 4 stars. I like Bedsitter a lot. I love the instrumentation on it and the pacing of the song and the kind of minimalism and then the hook of the bow 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 bow. Such a great song. I wasn't even planning on doing that. It just popped into my head like, oh yeah, that's a good hook. Yeah, let's sing it. Excuse me for that. Bedsitter, 4 stars. Great song. And then it goes to the worst song. I hate when albums do that. It's just like you go from my favorite song to the worst song. That's so disappointing, but sometimes that happens. Secret Life, 1 star. And then it goes back up to one of my favorites, Say Hello, Wave Goodbye, 4 stars. This was probably my most remembered song from this period. Like, I don't know. Again, I'm always interested in the lesser known songs on an album. So Tainted Love was probably in 1981. Like I heard it 1,000 times, even in 1981. And it was just kind of like it is what it is. But Say Hello, Wave Goodbye. This is my this is my sister's original copy here. Um, I did steal it from her a long, long time ago. Um, I'm curious if it has her name on it, as those records do back in the day. I always like to see my sister's name on the album. This one doesn't have it though. Almost put the record back without the jacket. Yeah, it doesn't have her name on it, but this is the original copy from 1981 or 82 probably when she got it, and I've always had it since then, or since the late 80s anyways, when she sort of, I kind of stole all the, which actually turned out to be good because in the 90s she actually had a water damage at one of her house and lost the rest of her records, unfortunately, but fortunately, I took all the ones that I wanted, or the good ones, and this was one of them. In fact, a lot of the ones I've been doing lately have been some of the more lesser known artists, not lesser known artists, but a lot of the ones I've been doing lately are sort of from my sister's collection, like that Missing Persons record. I just did a video on that. But Say Hello, Wave Goodbye was like I thought was the best song on here, for the longest time. I just love the melody, love the music. It's instantly memorable. I think it's a cover song, right? If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was a cover also. But yeah, when you look at the overall of this album, three songs in the three 4-star songs: Bedsitter, Say Hello, Wave Goodbye, Tainted Love, and even Sex Door could probably be 4 stars. It's got some really strong songs on here. So that does help out the overall the album for sure, and it kind of makes up for a couple of maybe okay tracks with Secret Life and Entertain Me, which are I don't really have as being good tracks. The rest of them are pretty solid. Again, I really like Youth as well. So yeah, 28.5 stars divided by 10 songs is 2.82. So that puts it right in the high 60s as a solid good album, high good album. I pushed it over the top a little bit considering what it is, and I gave it a 70 out of 100 because I think on the low side it's a very good album and certainly impactful and in some ways kind of a landmark album for early new wave music, and considering all that, and then the really strong songs on there, which I feel like there's 5 songs on here that are fairly instantly recognizable. I kind of consider Youth as one of those. Bedsitter, Sex Door, Tainted Love, and Say Hello, Wave Goodbye are instantly recognizable by anybody who likes synth pop. But I feel like Youth is in there as well, and so I think that balances out to be 5 of the 10 tracks are almost instantly recognizable. So I feel like I gave it a couple extra points considering what this is, and I think it is kind of groundbreaking for the time, and also for for what it is, being kind of a cabaret dance, early kind of seedy, dark kind of S&M kind of vibe, right? It kind of has that. It's kind of like Sparks, especially the Mr. I think his name is Mark Ball, right, or Andy Ball, or something Ball. The other guy, not Mark Almond, or is it Bell? That's Ball. They always remind me of Sparks, the way they look, and especially the other guy with the curly hair, the guy on the far here, the ball guy. He is it Mark Ball? I hate getting names wrong. If I'm gonna name him, I hate him when I hate it when I name him wrong. So sometimes I do that. I did that on the Cure video. Like I said, I called the guy Lowell Thompson, which was like, oh my god, like Lowell Tolhurst. Like, how did I miss that? Sometimes I do that. I'm really bad with remembering names sometimes. Like I can remember album titles. I'm good with song titles. I can remember all kinds like hooks and songs and stuff like that, and what I like about songs. But sometimes I blank on people's names in bands, and there are even bands that I kind of know pretty well. Just it's not usually the main person like Mark Allman in the band. Like I can't remember the other guy's first name. Um, you know, but they kind of remind me of the Sparks. Like if you took Sparks like early albums, like their first couple albums, and you kind of transplanted them into electronic music in the early '80s, they would sound like Soft Cell. I feel like, yeah, they've kind of always reminded me of a mix of Sparks and sort of I don't know, a little bit of Telex in there as well. Kind of a little bit of Kraftwerk in there as well. So, but yeah, curious if what's your top three all time favorite Mark Allman songs? That would be a that would be a that would be a good list. Curious if you have a favorite three soft cell slash Mark Allman tracks. I won't say mine because I have to think for that for a little longer. I just brought it up, but curious if you have one because you got the time to think about it before you answer. All right, take care.